the unfortunate consequences.
AIDS has always been a scary disease, but there was nothing scary about Ryan White. He was an all-American kid with a devastating illness who, like anyone else, needs all the support they can get. Susan Austin, Primetime News.
So far, 370 Minnesotans have died from AIDS, but many people with AIDS are living longer than expected because of a drug called AZT.
The Nicollet Hotel continues to have uninvited guests. In downtown Minneapolis tonight, people trying to draw attention to the homeless have been staying at the abandoned building since a rally on Saturday. An estimated half dozen to a dozen people are spread out among the gutted floors of the old hotel. While many of those staying are community activists, Tony McIntyre says that he has lived on the streets for more than a decade. McIntyre says permanent shelter is important in trying to get yourself on your feet.
Get a place like this, get settled down, and go out and look for a job instead of being out on welfare, and $200 a month ain't going to cut it for homeless people. In a couple of days it's gone, and you ain't going to have no transportation or anything to get around. You know, no clean clothes or nothing. You gotta go and clean up and have a little food in your gut and go out and do what you got to do.
Some of those in the building say that they will stay until they are arrested.
Governor Perpich this morning signed several bills into law, bills that have already made their way through the state legislature. Now, they include legislation that tightens restrictions on cigarette vending machines, but still allows local governments to ban or impose even stricter laws if they want. And a bill regulating garage door openers, prompted after 2 children were crushed to death by faulty garage door openers that failed to reverse. He also signed into law a bill raising the state's minimum wage to $4.25 an hour starting next January. But he says the bill still doesn't go far enough.
I'm hoping that in the 1991 legislative session that we again will consider this legislation and increase the minimum wage so that it's at least livable.
The governor says many of those working for minimum wage are single parents who find it nearly impossible to live on $8,000 a year. Well, the end of this year's legislative session is still in doubt, although meetings continue at this hour. Governor Rudy Perpich and DFL legislative leaders are still at odds over how to balance the budget. Perpich and Senate Majority Leader Roger Moe opposed spending any money from the state's rainy day fund to help offset a $154 million deficit. They say it should come through spending cuts. But House Speaker Bob Vanasek says at least $50 million of the reserve should be used to help balance the books. The session was supposed to wrap up today, but without an agreement yet tonight, it could be sometime next week at the earliest.
Northern Wisconsin is bracing itself again for the beginning of the Indian spearfishing season. One of the state's 6 Chippewa bands, the St. Croix, says it plans to begin spearing in Polk County tomorrow night. The state is trying to coordinate law enforcement and security at the lakes. Governor Tommy Thompson told the news conference this morning at the Capitol that one of the main efforts will be to try to keep protesters away from the lakes at night. Well, for some Dakota County prisoners, jail is just like home.
In fact, it is home. 23% of that county's inmates are on an electronic surveillance system, which allows them to serve their time without even being in jail.
Fritzy Borgward has the story.
We'll call this man Brian. Brian is a Twin Cities businessman who doesn't want to be identified. He's had 4 DWIs. He's serving a 9-month jail sentence because of it, at home, in a luxurious townhouse.
I'm still confined somewhere, is what it is. So I feel it's the same.
Brian's whereabouts are monitored from this room in St. Paul. He can't even go to the store without telling someone. He gets random calls to make sure he's home.
Hello? Hello. This is your on-guard curfew check, calling to confirm that the person under our curfew regulations is at home.
The wristband is Brian's ID. He is one of 30 prisoners in Dakota County's electronic tracking system. A company called WatchGuard does the work because there's not enough room in the jail.
That really eases the pressures on the jail in that there are some conditions that we feel where we don't need that level of security.
The system is earmarked for the least dangerous inmates. Those whose crimes are a little more serious are given radio tracking devices,
which is attached on a bracelet to an ankle, and it maintains radio contact with the receiver, which communicates with our central computer system.
He's not home, they have to go out looking for him.
Right. And in that situation, generally a warrant would be issued, and that person would be picked up.
But according to WatchGuard, home jailbreaks are rare.
In the history of approximately 500 offenders that we have supervised to date, we've only had one offender abscond.
In one county, the device was given to a murderer who had made bail while awaiting trial. The program is about a year old, and the number of law enforcement agencies using it is growing.
The chances are good that in most every neighborhood, there are going to be people who are placed on electronic monitoring.
Okay, go until I tell you to stop. Okay.
To be sure Brian doesn't drink again, he receives random breathalyzer tests. He pays $11 a day to serve his time at home. It costs the county nothing. And Brian thinks the system will help him stay sober.
Okay, we're clear.
I think it allows me to work my programs, too. In
And if Brian breaks any of the rules, disappears, takes a drink, or tries to drive, he knows he'll be looking through real bars instead of his dining room window. With photographer Ed Shepard, Fritzy Borgwart, Primetime News, Dakota County.
The system is not recommended for drug dealers. The Anoka County Jail administrator estimates that it has saved the county $360,000 worth of jail days in the past year alone.
Well, an old idea, however, is being used against the way some drug dealers do business. U.S. West is replacing many of its push-button payphones in the Twin Cities with the old rotary dials to make it harder for drug dealers to conduct business by using phone pagers. Police say the pager has become a way of life for many dealers who often fear that their telephone lines have been tapped. Most pagers don't work unless the call comes from a push-button phone, and changing to the rotary dials will hopefully make it harder for them to use the phone lines to do their business. Next on our environmental segment, a company involved in the nation's worst oil spill pleads innocent.
And is the state prepared to battle a toxic accident of any sort? The story when Primetime News returns.
When a man comes to Kuppenheimer and pays only $255 for a suit that would have cost him $400 somewhere else, he feels like celebrating. And with the money he saved, he could afford to. The Premier Edition suit, only at Kuppenheimer. America's #1 value clothier for men.
What are you looking for? A free toy? There is none. Did you take it? There's no toy in here. No marshmallows either. No. No candy things. No. How come you like it? Try it.
Kids like Kix because of its crisp corn crunch. Moms like Kix because it's low in sugar.
Now what are you looking for? I got one.
Kix, kid-tested, mother-approved.
This is our country, and this, and this. And there's a tough tractor that's built with quality crafted American parts for the truly unique landscape of America. It's the tough tractor that's been American-made for over 25 years. This tractor's a Cub Cadet. All American from the ground up. Cub Cadet. Tough tractors for your little corner of the world.
It's Velveeta versus cheddar. Our Velveeta melts much better. Cheddar's lumpy, cheddar's oily. It dribbles off your plate onto your doily. Velveeta melts so creamy. It improves your tetrazzini. When the cookbook calls for cheddar, make it with Velveeta, it cooks better.
Maybe the reason more people switch to Glidden than any other paint in the last 5 years is because the end result always looks so beautiful.
So beautiful.
Glidden, a better way to paint.
A hazardous materials accident can happen anytime and anywhere. All it takes is for a truck to roll over, a train to leave its track. and the public can be in grave danger. Minnesota used to have a special team with special equipment to help local fire departments handle such emergencies. But as Jeff Valiant reports tonight, we no longer have that protection.
When this train derailed and caught fire 2 years ago, warning sirens went off in the town of Annandale. Several of the train cars were carrying hazardous materials, and the town was evacuated because of the danger.
This is a butyl rubber suit for acid and alkali entry.
At the time of the Annandale accident, the state's hazardous materials team and its specially equipped truck were standing by if needed. If that same accident happened today, it'd be a different story.
The truck and the team both are out of service at this time. Neither one are responding as a team as they were in the past.
After 4 years of service, the 16-member team of highly trained experts has been disbanded, and the truck with all of its valuable equipment is in storage. State funding for both dried up in January.
Without this truck and the team of experts who used it, Minnesota is now without that extra margin of safety when dealing with hazardous materials accidents.
Many communities have neither the expertise nor the equipment for accidents like these.
Without the state team available, there is a response gap because there were a number of communities that were depending on the response of that unit.
During its 4 years of service, the team was called out 520 times. In 23 of those cases, they brought along the truck. Today, a few local fire departments have developed their own hazardous materials crews, but the majority are without.
Now they're wondering who they're supposed to call and what they're supposed to do.
Individual state agencies like the PCA or Health Department are still providing help, and private contractors are available too. But officials say the response time is usually slower, and the costs could actually be higher. Everyone is hoping there won't be a major accident anytime soon. With photographer Ed Shepard, Jeff Valiant, Primetime News, the Twin Cities.
State officials say they need $112,000 to upgrade their equipment and then $80,000 a year to keep the team in operation. But they've been told that the money isn't there.
The world's largest ethanol plant has been put on hold while investors wait to see if the Federal Clean Air Act passes Congress. Land was cleared and a parking lot laid for the plant in Appleton, Minnesota. Now, if finished, the plant would turn corn into about 15 million gallons of ethanol a year. The Clean Air Act would require that all fuels contain some ethanol. If the bill passes, the rest of the plant is scheduled to be completed in about 2 years. Exxon says it will plead innocent to charges stemming from the nation's worst oil spill in Alaska. This past February, a federal grand jury indicted the company on 5 criminal counts. At an arraignment today, the oil giant said the grounding of the Exxon Valdez tanker was tragic but accidental. And it was a mighty chilly day out today. It felt like it was going to snow. It felt like winter was coming back again.
It did snow up in northern Minnesota. At International Falls and Big Falls, about a half a foot of snow was reported today. And we're got just a touch of winter on the way for the next couple of days. We'll check that out when we come back.
A lot of people have taken on the Baja Desert, but we did it with a Toro wheel-horse lawn tractor. Toros are built with cast iron parts and backed by our total coverage guarantee for 2 years, or we'll pick them up and fix them free. So how did we do over 500 miles of open desert? Well, at 4 days, 14 hours, and 36 minutes, we didn't exactly finish first. We did, however, finish.
For details about the total coverage guarantee, see these dealers. Play Cinco Madness. Win a trip to Cancun, Mexico, or free food prizes.
In the darkest hour, you know you're safe with an alarm from Guardian Security. Professionally installed burglar, fire, and medical alarm systems. Call Guardian Security. We install peace of mind.
Come, experience trout air. The adventure begins at our well-stocked trout ponds. Catch your own beautiful rainbow trout. Then head to the Trout House as we prepare your fish for you to enjoy. Trout Air, the way fishing was meant to be.
If you think you can't afford to advertise on television, think again. When you become a member of Consumers Choice, your business is featured to over 800,000 viewers here on Channel 9. You'll reach customers you never thought possible before in a creative, professionally produced commercial. You'll tell hundreds of thousands who you are and where you're located. So for more information on this unique, affordable advertising plan, call Consumers Choice today.
Well, it started out almost like May here in the Twin Cities this morning, ended up more like March with that stiff north wind blowing. Here's a look at a satellite loop that starts at about 11 o'clock this morning and runs through about 8 o'clock this evening. You can see a whole batch of clouds, bright white clouds floating across southern Minnesota during the afternoon evening hours. However, most of the precipitation has been confined to the extreme southern part of the state and also down to northern portions of Iowa and Nebraska. Here comes another batch of clouds, and that can actually bring us a little bit of light snow for tomorrow. In the meantime, let's check out the numbers for today here in the Twin Cities. It was very spring-like this morning, with the high temperature making it up to 59 degrees. The morning low, or actually the current temperature is the low of 38. Averages now are 51 and 31, with only 6/100ths of an inch of liquid rain that was reported since midnight last night. Currently in the Twin Cities, cloudy and 38 degrees. The dew point is at 31. Our relative humidity, 76%. North winds at 21 miles an hour, putting quite a chill in the air, and the pressure is rising at 30.07 inches. A little bit of snow is already being reported, that is, across northern portions, the far northeastern portions of Wisconsin, with drizzle into central Wisconsin and southeastern Minnesota down around Rochester, heading toward the Sioux City area, and rain showers are being reported from eastern Iowa, north and eastern through the Madison and Milwaukee area. Not too much showing up, though, over much of Minnesota. Temperatures have fallen into the 30s over most of the state right now. 40 degrees over there at Watertown, South Dakota, also at Rochester. 50 still hanging on, that is, down in the Des Moines area. 49 at La Crosse, and 32 reported up in the Duluth and Superior area. Here's the way the weather map looks this evening. The cool front that sagged through the Twin Cities right about noontime today is just currently pushing through the Rochester area and also down around Sioux City. That's going to continue sinking slowly southeast later tonight and tomorrow. That's why we're getting those brisk northwest winds around the back side of that frontal system. There's a large area, once again, of Arctic high pressure building way up there in western Canada, and that's going to sag south the next couple of days. And once again, temperatures are going to be running around 15 to 20 degrees below their averages. Farther to the south, lots of moisture moving in ahead of this frontal system, and lots of instability, too, and that means thunderstorms, especially in springtime in Kansas. They had report of a tornado touchdown near Sedgwick, Kansas. No reports of damage with that. Near Hellstead, Kansas, baseball-size hail been reported. Several watches and advisories up across this area for severe weather. Rain is being reported, some of it heavy in the Chicago area, stretching down towards Springfield and east toward Indianapolis, and snow is being reported in the Nebraska Panhandle. Also, heavy rain has been falling in the Miami area. As a matter of fact, they've reported almost 5 inches in the last 24 hours. All is quiet out to the west, and that should be the case once again tomorrow. High pressure building down from the northwest will again continue that brisk northerly wind, cool temperatures. There may even be a little bit of light snow or flurry activity here around Minnesota and western Wisconsin, but right now it does not look like it's going to amount to too much. Heavier rains will press eastward across Ohio, Kentucky, and Tennessee, where they could see some pretty hefty amounts. 65 in New York tomorrow, 58 expected in Oklahoma City. Here around the upper Midwest, our high temperatures should range from the 30s over much of Minnesota and northwest Wisconsin to the 40s just to the south. It's going to be a chilly day. Our forecast for the Twin Cities tonight calling for cloudy and colder. It will be on the breezy side throughout the night tonight. Lows in the mid-30s with those gusty north winds. Tomorrow, we will look forward to, once again, a mostly cloudy day. Flurries, light snow possible. Give you a 40% chance of any light accumulation. The high temperature near 40. Once again, we don't expect that to cause any major problems. For tomorrow night, we'll look forward to clearing and colder with light snow possible early in the evening. A low down around 20 degrees once again. And then for Wednesday, sunny and cool with a high temperature in the upper 30s. So, Ron and Maureen, keep those coats handy.
I think everybody put their skis away, so we really don't need any more of this cold weather.
At least it's going to keep the grass from growing too fast.
Well, that's true. We don't have to get out and mow or rake.
That's right.
All right, thank you very much, Joe.
Well, when we return, a somber anniversary in the Soviet Union.
And the results are in from free elections held for the first time in decades in Hungary and Greece. Stay with us.
On the next MASH, a Korean family moves in on the 4077.
He says that this is his farm and you are on his land.
That settles it. Let's go home.
But guess who's the father of this child?
Radar? Radar.
She's mixing me up with somebody else.
That's possible. You all look alike to us.
Radars in a bundle of trouble on MASH.
Monday night at 10 on Receptive Channel 9.
As you can see, the house is completely renovated with the very best heating and cooling system.
Must be a Lennox.
Now get up to $400 cash back or 0% financing on high-efficiency Lennox systems.
Since 1923, Twin City Furnace has been St. Paul's Lennox dealer. Let Twin City Furnace cut your heating and cooling costs. For a free estimate on an efficient Lennox comfort system, call Bruce or Jim at Suburban Air Conditioning. Suburban sells the best and services the rest.
Attaboy, Dave.
3 great ways to spend the day with Light FM 103. WLTE. Turn on the light at home. Great company anytime, no matter what you're doing. And WLTE is perfect at work. Everyone agrees on the light music.
And your workday will go by just a little faster.
And WLTE should have a button on your car radio. Then there's one for news, one for the kids, and one for relaxing light music. 3 great ways to spend the day with the Light FM, WLTE.
If your car pulls to one side, if your steering wheel is off-center, your car could be out of alignment. At Midas, trained professionals with the latest technology align your car right. Midas realigns foreign cars and light trucks too, the right way. Before your tires show uneven wear, have your alignment checked, or you could be shortening tire life and taking risks. You see, we're serious about safety. Hey, nobody beats Midas. Nobody.
Put away the oily cheddar, baby. You know what I like. Velveeta shreds on my dinner spreads. No cheddar oil dribbling down.
Velveeta shredded cooks up better every time.
Oh, Velveeta is the one I like.
A bloody anniversary was marked today in Soviet Georgia.
Thousands of people gathered to remember 20 independence protesters who were killed by Soviet troops on this date a year ago.
Jim Clancy reports tonight on the crowds and their other actions today as they vowed to regain freedom from Moscow.
Politicians, religious leaders, and hundreds of thousands of ordinary citizens marched in the streets of Tbilisi Monday, demanding independence from the Soviet Union. Shouting occupiers at Soviet troops in their nearby headquarters, the demonstrators demanded that the Red Army leave the Georgian Republic.
We don't fight with army and with the buildings. We don't fight because we want freedom in Georgia.
Militiamen carrying truncheons looked on but made no attempt to intervene in the demonstration. Some local men serving in the army turned in their military identity cards in a show of defiance, a move that could earn a swift response from the Kremlin. One speaker told the crowd at this demonstration that the Soviet soldiers in the building across the street were the same people who killed their mothers and daughters 1 year ago. The tragedy occurred as Soviet troops stormed the site of a peaceful hunger strike and demonstration in the early morning hours of April 9th. 21 people, mostly women, died in the clash as protesters were gassed, then beaten and crushed by troops. In the early morning hours Monday, a year later, the demonstrators returned, hundreds of thousands of them. All of the people who gathered in the streets at 2 o'clock Monday morning came to pay tribute to those who died here.
These people have revived, our aspiration to freedom and independence and strengthened it to a great extent, and we consider them as victims and symbols of this fight for independence and sovereignty of our republic.
Delegations from Azerbaijan, Lithuania, and Estonia offered their support in a common struggle to break free from the Soviet Union. The de facto leader of Georgia's independence movement, Zviad Gamzahordia, said the deaths a year ago galvanized the drive for freedom.
We had independent state 1918 until 1921, independent state, constitutional government, our constitution, and this state exists until today, and this constitution also exists. It is only stopped by annexion and occupation by Soviet troops. So This Soviet power is not lawful.
Later in the day, various political groups met in Tbilisi's sports stadium to consider their next move. One of the issues was a new law allowing Georgia and other Soviet republics to secede. But many pro-independence leaders see that as a trap that will force them to remain a part of the Soviet Union, to support Gorbachev's reforms, and accept something less than real freedom. The people of this city repeatedly told us they have no faith in Mikhail Gorbachev or his reforms. They desperately want Western support for their cause of independence, but don't expect to get it. Instead, they expect to carry on the fight just as they did in this square 1 year ago, marching, demonstrating, and standing up to the Soviets by themselves. Jim Clancy, CNN, Tbilisi.
This was the scene in Nepal this morning as thousands of people celebrated democracy. Yesterday, the country's ruler ended a 30-year ban on political parties. He did so after weeks of fighting between police and pro-democracy demonstrators, which had left at least 50 people dead. Government and opposition groups have now begun talks about holding general elections under a multi-party system.
Hungary's new top political party is trying to set up a new government. The country's diplomatic forum won yesterday's first free elections in 4 decades. That group has allied itself with 2 smaller parties and has the majority in the parliament. A new government may also be formed soon in Greece. The Conservative Party claimed victory in that country's 3rd election within a year on Sunday. The election was needed because 2 earlier votes resulted in failed efforts to form a coalition government. And a communist reformer has received the most votes in Yugoslavia's first free elections in over 40 years. However, he'll have to face a conservative rival in an upcoming runoff ballot.
Iraq's expulsion of an American diplomat has drawn some angry words from the U.S. State Department. Spokeswoman Margaret Tutwiler says the action is inappropriate and unjustified and could make things worse between the 2 nations. Iraq says that it was retaliating for the U.S. expulsion of an Iraqi UN diplomat. The State Department, however, claims that person was involved in a plot to kill Iraqi opposition figures here in America. Coming up next in financial news, employees of a major airline are hoping to change the company's future.
And the future of glasnost is here and now in the soda industry. That story next on Tonight in Business.
This happens all the time. Someone comes into F&M Distributors, they look at a few of our prices, and they ask, when does the sale end? And I tell them,